Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're tackling Islamic banking and Sukuk. It's a sector that's really seeing some amazing global growth, and I think a lot of people are really curious about it. Now, I bet Islamic finance is growing, but let me just throw some numbers at you.
Oh yeah, hit me.
Islamic financial assets have jumped like 36% in the past 5 years. That's huge. It's a market worth $4.453 trillion globally.
Wow.
And get this, Islamic banking assets, they're on track to top $4.45 trillion by the middle of 2024.
Seriously?
Yeah, no joke, it's pretty wild.
That is wild.
So we got to unpack this. Let's get into the core ideas behind Islamic banking. Then we'll figure out what makes Sukuk so special, those Islamic bonds everyone's talking about. And finally, we'll see how this whole system is impacting the global scene. What do you say?
I'm in. Let's dive in.
Perfect. So Islamic banking, first things first, interest, or rather the lack of it. You see, in Islamic banking, interest, what they call riba, is totally forbidden. It's like the foundation of the system. No interest allowed.
Yeah, that's the cornerstone.
Instead of interest, they're big on risk sharing. So you get things like mudaraba, it's kind of like a profit sharing agreement.
Yeah.
And then there's musharaka. It's more like a joint venture where everyone shares both the risk and the rewards.
And that focus on risk sharing actually helped Islamic banks navigate that whole 2008 financial crisis. They were more resilient than a lot of conventional banks.
Oh, that's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that. So did that attract investors who saw it as more ethical?
Oh, totally. People were looking for stability and, a system that just felt more ethical.
Right.
And to make sure everything's legit, Islamic banks have these independent Sharia supervisory committees.
Oh, interesting. What do those committees do?
They basically review every transaction. Everything has to line up with Islamic principles.
Gotcha. So it's not just about avoiding interest. It's about a whole ethical structure.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. Okay, so let's talk about the stuff Islamic banks actually offer. The products and services. What have they got? You hear about murabaha. It's sort of like financing where you add a markup, like a cost plus thing. But it's not just that. There's actually a ton of variety, more than people might realize.
Oh, for sure.
You've got Islamic credit cards, investment funds, even microfinance programs. It's a whole landscape of options.
It really is. And, it's interesting how Islamic banking has, evolved over time.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Well, it's not some brand new concept, right? We can trace the modern version back to the mid-20th century. You had places like the Gammer Savings Bank in Egypt, started in 1963.
Wow, that was a while ago.
And then, of course, the Islamic Development Bank, established in 1975. Real pioneers.
Yeah, it's cool how they laid the groundwork for what we see today. And speaking of today, Islamic finance is everywhere. It's gone way beyond those Muslim-majority countries.
Oh, absolutely. It's global now. You're seeing places like the UK and even Luxembourg getting in on the action. They're promoting these Sharia-compliant products.
Wow.
Investors all over are looking for this kind of ethical framework. It's not just a regional thing anymore.
Right, it's bigger than that now. It seems like the appeal is about more than just, religious reasons. There's a growing interest in ethical and sustainable finance everywhere.
I totally agree. It's definitely a trend. And the growth is phenomenal.
Really? What kind of numbers are we talking about?
So from 2018 to 2022, Islamic banking assets grew at a compound annual rate of 10.5%. That's huge.
That is huge.
And a lot of that growth is coming from key markets. The GCC nations, Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey, they're all driving this expansion.
Okay, I'm with you. But here's what really intrigues me. Fintech in Islamic banking. This is more than just a trend, right? This feels like a whole wave of change.
I'm with you there. Fintech is making these Islamic products way more accessible, especially for younger people.
Makes sense. Those digital natives are all about mobile banking, online platforms, the whole tech thing.
Exactly. And Islamic fintech companies. They're using all the latest stuff, AI, blockchain, big data. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're really creating products that are tailored for Muslim consumers.
Yeah.
It's not just here's a digital version of our old product. It's a whole new approach.
Right. For example, think about blockchain. It can make Sukuk issuance and trading completely transparent, more trust, more efficiency. Everyone wins.
I love it. What else?
And then there's peer-to-peer lending platforms. They're offering Sharia-compliant alternatives to regular loans.
Well, that's smart. It opens up access for people who might not qualify for those traditional loans.
Exactly. These technologies are bringing Islamic finance principles into the 21st century,
It's really fascinating.
But it's not without its challenges, of course. Keeping up with regulations in this crazy, fast-paced tech world is tough.
Right, I can imagine.
But there's so much potential for collaboration. You've got these innovative fintech startups and these established Islamic banks. If they work together, everyone benefits.
It's a win-win.
Totally.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into Sukuk. So they're Sharia-compliant, right? But how are they different from a regular bond?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
Well, regular bonds are about debt, but Sukuk, they represent ownership.
Oh, I see. Ownership in a tangible asset or project.
Yeah. So instead of lending money and getting interest, you're actually investing in something real. You share in the profits and, yeah, also the losses.
So it's about participating in the actual economy, not just making money off of lending.
Exactly. And that's what makes Sukuk so cool. They're not just about financing, they're about development.
Oh, interesting. How so?
They can support big infrastructure projects, social initiatives, all kinds of essential services, especially in Muslim-majority countries.
So it's not just about profit, it's about investing in a way that helps the community. I like that.
Yeah, it's a more holistic approach.
Okay, so tell me about the different types of Sukuk. What are the options?
Well, there are a bunch of different structures. Each one caters to different needs, you know.
Give me some examples.
Okay, so you've got Ijara. It's kind of like a lease agreement. Then there's Musharaka, which is all about partnership and profit sharing. And then there's Mudaraba. In this one, investors provide the capital and a manager runs the project.
Okay, I'm following you.
And we can't forget Wakala. This one's agency-based.
Wow, there's a Sukuk structure for like every situation.
Pretty much. And then to make things even more interesting, you've got composite Sukuk.
Composite, what's that?
They combine multiple assets, it diversifies risk, and attracts a wider range of investors.
That makes sense. So how big is this Sukuk market globally, I mean?
Bro, it's huge. And it's growing fast. In 2022, it was around $720 billion.
Wow.
But then by 2023, it had already shot past $823 billion. Crazy, right?
That's massive. And who's leading the charge?
Malaysia is definitely a major player, but
Yeah.
we're seeing Sukuk issuances all over the world now.
It's really becoming mainstream.
It is. And you know what's really cool? We're seeing more and more Sukuk being used for infrastructure.
Oh, really? Like
Yeah.
what?
Governments are realizing they can use them to fund things like roads, schools, hospitals, all kinds of essential stuff.
That's awesome. Okay, last question before we move on. What about sustainability? Where does that fit into all of this?
Sustainability is basically baked into the principles of Islamic finance.
How so?
Well, think about it. The focus on ethical investment, on risk sharing that aligns perfectly with sustainable practices.
So it's not just about avoiding certain industries. It's about a whole different approach to responsible investing.
Exactly. And we're seeing a huge push to incorporate ESG criteria into everything. Banking, Sukuk frameworks, the whole deal.
ESG.
Environmental, social, and governance. It's becoming the gold standard.
Gotcha. So you're saying it's not just about avoiding bad investments. It's about actively supporting things that are positive.
Right. And then there's this whole green Sukuk thing.
Oh, yeah. Green Sukuk. They're specifically for environmentally friendly projects, right?
Exactly. And that market has exploded.
Yeah.
In 2021, it reached $6.1 billion.
Wow, that's incredible.
The first green Sukuk was actually issued in Malaysia back in 2017.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It's really taken off since then. Investors are demanding sustainable options, and green Sukuk give them that.
It's amazing how it's all connected. This whole idea of values-based investing is gaining traction everywhere.
I know, right?
It's like Islamic finance is about more than just following rules.
Yeah.
It's about a whole different philosophy of finance, you know?
I think that's a great way to put it.
And it's clearly resonating with people all over the world.
Definitely.
This has been really insightful. I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already. The core ideas behind Islamic banking, the potential of Sukuk, this whole fintech explosion. Before we go any further, let's just pause for a second and reflect on what we've learned so far. So we've talked a lot about the growth and innovation in Islamic finance, but what about the challenges? What hurdles does this sector need to overcome moving forward?
That's a good question. I'd say one of the biggest things is standardization. You know, how Sharia is interpreted and how the regulations actually work.
Yeah.
It can vary a lot from country to country, which makes things tricky for investors, especially those working across borders.
So everyone agrees on the core values, but when it comes to the nitty-gritty of finance, it's not so clear-cut.
Exactly. And this lack of consistency, it makes it hard to create a truly global Islamic financial market.
Right. It's kind of fragmented.
Kinda, yeah.
We've also talked about the potential of fintech, but I'm guessing integrating all this new tech isn't always easy. Are there challenges there too?
Oh, absolutely. Fintech is great for innovation, but making sure everything's still in line with Sharia principles, that's a whole other ball game.
I can imagine.
You have to think about data, privacy, cybersecurity, even like the ethics of using AI. It's a lot to consider.
So it's not just about like, hey, cool new tech, let's use it. It's about making sure the tech serves the bigger picture, the ethical and moral framework of Islamic finance.
Exactly. And this needs like constant dialogue between the tech people, the scholars, the regulators. Everyone has to be on the same page.
Makes sense. Anything else that's like top of mind for you in terms of challenges?
I think there's still a bit of a perception gap out there. Even though Islamic finance is growing, some investors still don't really get it, you know?
So it's an education thing, helping people understand what it really is and how it all works.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm optimistic. As the sector matures and people see how stable and resilient it is, I think those perceptions will change.
I hope so too. It feels like the world is looking for a different way of doing finance, something more ethical and sustainable. And Islamic finance definitely has something to offer.
I agree.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit, let's talk trends. What do you see shaping the future of Islamic finance? What's on the horizon?
Well, I definitely think we'll see continued growth, especially in emerging markets where there are large Muslim populations. And, you know, globally, there's this rising demand for ethical products. Islamic finance fits right in there.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend everywhere. People want their investments to reflect their values.
Totally. Another thing I see is more integration into the global financial system. We're already seeing countries outside the Muslim world developing frameworks for Islamic finance, and more Sukuk are being issued in international markets.
It's becoming more mainstream all the time.
It is. And technology will continue to be huge. We're going to see even more fintech solutions designed specifically for Muslim consumers and investors.
So a future where Islamic finance is both true to its values and seamlessly connected to the global financial system.
Exactly. And I'm excited to see it happen.
Me too. This has been such an interesting conversation. We've talked about the principles of Islamic banking, the potential of Sukuk, all this exciting stuff happening with fintech. Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive, let's distill everything we've learned. What are the key takeaways for our listeners? What are the most important things to remember about Islamic finance? So we've really dug deep into Islamic finance, principles, products, the good, the bad, the whole 9 yards. Let's break it all down. Like, if our listeners only remember a few key things about Islamic finance, what should they be?
Well, first off, it's more than just like a bunch of financial products, right? It's a whole system built on values, on doing good. It's about making financial decisions that match your moral compass. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's about like walking the walk. Not just talking the talk, right? Making money in a way that feels right ethically. And as we've talked about, the system's seeing amazing growth, global recognition.
Yeah, the numbers are impressive for sure. But it goes beyond that. Islamic finance is all about sustainability, risk sharing, doing things ethically. That makes it a real alternative, especially now, you know?
How so?
Well, the world is facing all this economic uncertainty, and there's a big push for responsible investing. Islamic finance just like fits right in.
So it's a different path, a path where doing well financially and doing good in the world, they go hand in hand.
Exactly. And I know you're interested in how this could like affect your own investments.
Yeah, after learning all this, I'm definitely intrigued. What are the options?
Well, there's a lot out there. Sukuk, Islamic mutual funds, even things in the Islamic fintech space. But, you know, it's important to really understand what you're getting into.
Right, so don't just jump in.
Right. Do your research. Find a financial advisor who really knows Islamic finance, someone who can guide you, help you find investments that align with your goals and your values.
That's great advice. So as we wrap up, what's the big takeaway? What should our listeners really remember about the future of Islamic finance?
The world is looking for new ways to do finance, right? Something more equitable, more sustainable. And Islamic finance, with its focus on values, well, it's offering a pretty compelling path forward. A system where it's not just about returns, it's about making a positive impact.
That's a great way to sum it up. It's not just about doing well, it's about doing good. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. This has been an incredible journey into the world of Islamic finance. And to our listeners, keep exploring. Think about the principles, the possibilities, how this all could fit into your own financial journey. Maybe Islamic finance is the right path for you. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.